everyone. I hope that your week has started off well. This is going to be the first video of my Halloween series for 2019, and it's also going to be the first video of a new sort of series that I'm doing that I'm going to call Cricut Maker Mondays. So I am not going to be doing this every Monday, but when I do decide to do a Cricut tutorial, it will be on a Monday, and that way we'll have a playlist, and if you're interested in learning more about the Cricut, or if you have a Cricut and want to work along with me, then you'll know right where to find these type of videos. So what I'm going to do in this series is I'm going to just take you start to finish through a project. I'm going to actually show you in Design Space any changes that I'm making, as well as the cutting, and we'll just go all the way through to the completed project. Now I will go ahead and fast forward a lot of the things because I know you don't want to sit here and watch every single mat be cut out, so I will be speeding that along for you. And for those of you who don't have a Cricut and are just interested in seeing the finished project and how I'm putting that together, I will go ahead and put on the screen here where you should skip to in order to see the actual completion of the project. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do for today is one of the Cricut Access things, and I'm going to go over to my computer. So I am on my home page here, so you can see all of my previous projects are up here, but what I'm going to do today is under Cricut Access. So I'm going to go here and click View All, and maybe later on that, and then I will go ahead and in the search section I'm going to type in Halloween. Then I'm going to scroll down until I find my project. So I'm going to be doing a dimensional scene. And here it is, Spooky Forest Dimensional. So I'm going to click on that. It'll give me a little bit more information. There's also a couple different pictures of the project. It'll tell you a little description, the finished size, the materials, and give you some assembly instructions. Down here at the bottom, if there is a cost, if you are not an Access member, there will be a fee for this. And then once you purchase it, you can make this cut file as many times as you want. Because I'm an Access member, it doesn't cost me anything extra. And then you can also, if you'd like, up here, you can print off the instructions to keep with you as you're working. I feel like I know how this is going to go together, so I'm not worried about that at the moment. Now I'm going to make one change to this. So I'm going to go ahead and click Customize. And that's going to take me into my work area here. So this is all one group together, even though there's lots of layers, it's been grouped. So the first thing I'm going to do is ungroup this, and then I've got all of my individual layers down here. So I'm going to pull out this one, and what this is the shadow behind the little characters. The only thing that is filling in is the yellow eyes behind each of the characters. Now, because I am using an 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and this full project measures 6 by 6, I don't want to have to use another yellow sheet of paper for just those eyes that are going to be behind the characters. So I'm going to actually slice this to make a little smaller piece of it, and then I will just glue that behind my characters rather than having a whole nother layer. I just don't want to waste the cardstock. I don't have a lot of yellow left. So now that I've got this layer pulled out, I'm going to go over here to my shapes, and I'll click on square, and then I'm going to grab that square and I'm going to line that up roughly where the characters are here. And then I just want to drag this so that it covers over the characters. I'm dragging it to cover the portion that I want to cut out. So I'm going to click unlock here, and that way I can drag my square to the shape that I need it in. I'll let go of that. And then in order to slice, you can only slice 2 layers at a time. So you always have to pull out each individual layer if you want to make changes to multiple layers. We're just going to do one today. So now that I have this square over top of the section that I want to cut out, I'm going to drag and select both of these. You have to select the entire portion of both of the things that you're going to slice. And then I'm going to go down here over to my layers palette, and I will click slice. Okay, so then I can pull this away, and I've got this gray section. I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need it. And I've got this yellow section, which is the part portion around what I actually want, so I'm going to get rid of that. Then I have this back section here, which I also don't need, so I'm going to get rid of that. So now I've got that section sliced down, and it's roughly about 3 inches. So I know that that will fit underneath my 6-inch square of the other yellow that I'm going to do. So since I have this done, I'm going to make it even a little bit smaller just so I don't waste the rest of my cardstock on either end of that. So I'm going to grab another square here. I'm going to pull that, and again I will click that unlock button, and then I will just get that into the shape that I want here. Whoops. And I didn't give myself much room there, did I? And I'm going to go ahead and select just those 2, and again I will hit slice. So now I can pull this portion away, and I can delete the rest of these that I do not want to cut. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'll get another square from my shapes, pull that over here, just about covers it. Click the unlock button, pull that down, and then I will select both of these. Oops. I will select both of these, and I'll hit my slice again. And I can go ahead and delete all of that extra. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag this back over, and I'm going to place that right over top of my characters, try to line that up as best as I can. Now this is all going to cut each layer by color, so I don't really need to worry about this looking exactly the way it's going to look finished. But just to show you how, if you are more of a visual person, you know, as you're putting things together in your mind, you can go ahead and move this back where it was. You just make sure it's selected so you have the box around it, and then you can click arrange, move backwards, and you'll just have to click that a couple of times until you can get it back to the layer that it originally was. And I think I need 1 or maybe 2 more here. I think this is my last one. Yeah, so now it looks like the finished project. Again, it would cut totally fine the way that it was. It's just that whatever layer you work on last is going to be in the front. So now that I've got this all put back together and I have my cuts done, I'm going to select all of this again, and I'm going to click on group. So now it's all back together again. I can move that wherever I need it if I need to. And I'm going to, at this point, go ahead and save my project. So I'm just going to click Save As. And then I'll just add my edits at the end and click Save. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and click Make It. And that will take me to each of my different colored mats. So once you're in this screen, you want to make sure that your images that you're going to cut are going to line up properly with your cardstock. So mine's 8.5 by 11, so I don't need to worry about how this is going to fit width-wise, but length-wise I just need to make sure that everything looks good. So 8 by 8, I'm going to be fine on this. This one looks great. This one looks great. They're all basically the same size. A few have something extra to them. So there's my ghost. I'm only going to need a small one for that. So now we go down to this yellow. So now you can see it's definitely good for 8.5, and it's definitely good for 11. I'm going to grab this and just edge that down slightly, just to give myself a little bit more room as it's cutting. But here you can see I've saved myself this square. And you never know when that'll come in handy, so I always try to do that if I can. The other thing I'm going to grab here is this next layer. This is going to be the hat and dress for the witch, so I'm going to also pull these down. Now I could leave it like that, and I could just switch my paper and have my 8.5 by 11, the 11 going across, but I don't want to have to remember to do that differently than all of the rest of them. So I'm just going to grab these now and pull them down, and then I don't have to worry about it. And then this last one, yep, everything looks good with that one. So now I am going to go ahead and click continue, but remember that the mat that is selected is the one that's going to cut. So I'm just going to go right back up to the top just to keep myself in order. And then I will click continue. It's going to connect to my machine. Mine is on Bluetooth, so it may take a minute here. And then I am using heavyweight cardstock. This is a mix of MFT and Papertrey ink. So I have already favorited that 100-pound cardstock. And I will go ahead and just select this. Now you can click on popular, it gives you a bunch of different options. I have this one under my favorites just because I use it quite a bit. You can also click browse all materials, and they have tons. I'll show you really quickly. They have tons that you can choose from. Fabric, iron-on, leather, paper, you know, all kinds of different stuff. So we're going to go with cardstock. Again, remember the mat that over here that is highlighted is the mat that you are going to be cutting with, or that is going to be cutting first or next. So I'm going to go ahead and click cardstock, and then it's going to tell me what I need to load in my machine. So another trick I'm going to give you if you're using this kind of cardstock is I like to use my deep cut blade. I just think it works better. I get a smoother cut, especially with something like this that's intricate. So the deep cut is the darker. The usual one, I'll show you the difference. So the regular blade is your silver, and then the deep cut is dark. So I always remember dark, deep cut. So I'm going to use this blade, and it just works better for me. You can of course test yours and, you know, see how yours works. And if you're using different cardstock, you definitely would not need to use the deep cut blade. But with this is what I found works best for me. Okay, so I've got my blade popped back in there. And now I'm ready to load my mat and go. So I'm going to move my colored cardstock over here off to the side. And I'm going to keep my grays in order so I know my lightest to darkest. And I'll move my cream for my ghost out of the way as well. So I'm going to start here with the lightest gray. And I have got a light grip mat. I like this best for working with cardstock, especially a thick cardstock like this it's quite fibrous, and you don't want to have too much that's left over on your mat. This is a brand new mat. I mark my mat as I use it, and I will make a line down here for each time that I use this. I'm going to be working with two mats so that I can have one ready while I'm removing everything from the other one. The next one can get going, and that just helps my process move along a little bit faster. So I've got my lightest gray here, and I'm just going to line this up right along the edges. And I'll press that down, and because this is a new mat, I don't need to worry about pressing too much. I'm just going to run all the way around the edges, and we should be all set. So I'm going to hop over to my machine here. Just going to double check to make sure, yep, I am good in my camera. And I will go ahead and load my mat. Make sure that's nice and tight. And I will go ahead and hit the go button, and we'll start our first cut. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get my second mat loaded and ready to go for my next cut. And then I will continue to do that, just switching out each mat while the other one is going. But I'm going to skip ahead at this point just to save us all some time. I know that you have seen a Cricut machine run before, and you don't need to watch me do this portion. So let's fast forward ahead here, and then we will be back to create the finished project. So I made a boo-boo as I was layering all of my colors, and I started one color ahead. I should have started my very first trees using the off-white that I used for the ghost, and I started with my lightest gray. So that's okay. Mine's going to look slightly different than the one that is pictured, but I still like the way it looks, and I'll give you a look at that here quickly in a minute. But what I wanted to show you is I'm going to go ahead and trim out the witch's hat and dress in a lighter color because it just looks too dark because of the way my layers went and the one that was placed with. I want to go with a lighter color. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go back here to Design Space, and I'm again going to ungroup. So I'm going to click on Group, and then I want to pull out just the dress and the hat. So I'm going to click the dress layer, and I will drag that over here, and then I'll click the hat layer, and I will drag that over here. And then because I just want to cut these two, the easiest way to do that is actually to change the color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my color up here, and I'm just going to make that green, and then I will do the exact same green color for the dress. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Make It Again. And this way I've got my green layer, which is easy to find, and I can go ahead and run that through my machine again, and I'll have just the hat and the dress. Okay, so I have gone ahead and I've just put everything together here in the layers to see how it's going to look. So if you want it to look exactly like the Cricut one, you need to start your back layer with a lighter gray or mix another one in. So this should actually be gray instead of black, but I miscounted as I was pulling out my cardstock. But I really kind of like the tone-on-tone look here, the more subtle of the pumpkin and the swirls around the frame. I could also just have left this one out and just had it been, you know, this kind of layer here, but I really like this scene closed in a little more with the trees, and I wanted the grass. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave mine just like it is here, and it'll be a tone-on-tone black. I just don't want to have to recut everything, and I'm happy enough with it as it is. So let's go ahead and start putting this together. I have sped up the video quite a bit. I'm going to start with this somewhat center scene with the characters. Because these are the pieces that I'm going to glue on rather than use some dimensionals, I wanted to just start here first and make sure I had everything nice and lined up and ready to go. I'm using my art glitter glue, so of course I'm going to add this yellow shadow to create the eyes to my characters first, just making sure that's lined up as best as I can get that. And then I'll add some glue behind the ghost and the hat and the dress of the witch. And that will complete that layer. I'm going to place everything back together again. Then I decided for this top frame, because that is going to be more of a tone-on-tone look, I'm going to glue this down as well, just adding some art glitter glue dots there, and I'll place that on top. And now we can get started on creating all that dimension. So I've grabbed my Scotch foam tape, and I decided the best way to do this would be to work from the back to the front. And I'm adding just a frame of this foam tape around all of these layers. I'm going to add it to the layer that is going on top of the previous layer, and that way I can get everything nice and lined up right along those edges. So I started by peeling away all of the backing of the foam tape on that bottom edge, and then I just pulled along the side the backing up about halfway, so I had a little bit of wiggle room to work with as I tried to place this as best right on top, lining up those edges as I could. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and speed through the rest of this. I'll add in a little bit of spooky music for you for Halloween, and then I will be back to talk you through the finished project. Okay, so here is our finished project. I did go ahead and hit that ghost with a little bit of the Nouveau Shimmer pen just to give him a little bit of glisten. And check out this dimension. I love it. This piece is so thick. And it's really actually very sturdy because of all those layers of foam tape. So this measures, it is exactly a ½ inch thick with that foam tape. And remember, you could actually make it thicker if you wanted. I glued on this top layer. You could add some pop dots and have that be popped up a little further. And also we glued on the yellow layer behind the characters, and that could have been a whole nother layer too as well if you wanted to make that a little bit thicker. But this is very sturdy. I'm really happy with this. It came together really easily. The only thing that was slightly difficult was making sure that all of my edges were lined up, because I knew it was going to be really difficult to trim that if I didn't get those perfect, but it really came together pretty easily, I think. So that is our first Halloween 2019 project and our first Cricut Monday project. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have a Cricut and there's a specific project that you would like me to go through with you, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to take a look at it and see if I can help you. And I will see you guys very shortly with the next Halloween video.